Hello students, welcome to the classroom point. In our today's class, we shall discuss about the equivalent volume and number of gram equivalents and how to use both of these in solving the questions. So let's begin the video. Equivalent volume. The definition is, it is the volume of a gas occupied by 1 gram equivalent of that gas at STP. So 1 gram equivalent means 1 equivalent of the gas, whatever it occupies the volume at STP, it is called as the equivalent volume. Let us see how to solve these formulas and how to use the formulas for this. So equivalent volume is equals to equivalent mass divided by molecular mass into 22.4 liters. Let us take some examples. So the first one is equivalent volume of hydrogen gas is equals to equivalent mass of the hydrogen is 1.008 grams, whereas its molecular mass is 2.016 into 22.4 liters. So it goes 2 times and it goes 11.2 times, so that the volume is equals to 11.2 liters. Equivalent volume of oxygen, then equivalent mass of the oxygen is 8 grams, molecular mass is 32 into 22.4 liters, it goes 4 times, so it goes 5.6 times, so that the volume of equivalent volume of the oxygen is equals to 5.6 liters. Equivalent volume of chlorine gas at STP. Chlorine equivalent mass is 35.5 grams, whereas its molecular mass is 71 grams into 22.4 liters. Again it goes 2 times here, so the value is equals to 11.2 liters. Similarly, let us calculate the equivalent volume for the nitrogen gas also. So fourth one, equivalent volume of nitrogen gas is equals to, so equivalent mass of the nitrogen is 4.66 divided by molecular mass is 28 because 2 nitrogen atoms are present into 22.4 liters. So this value will be equals to 3.7 liters. So like this we can calculate the equivalent volume of the gases at STP conditions. And now let's move on to the calculation of the number of gram equivalents, and afterwards we shall see some questions how to use both the equivalent volume and number of gram equivalents in the solving the questions. So the next part is number of gram equivalents. Usually this number of gram equivalents becomes a big task for the students, and in calculation and using it and understanding it also, this is very simple concept. You must remember that the reactions happens only in terms of the gram equivalents. That's why number of gram equivalents concept is very helpful in solving the questions, both objective as well as the some titration questions also we use only this one. So let's begin that. What is the number of gram equivalents? It means it is the number of equal parts by mass of an element or atom or molecule participate in a chemical reaction. So let's try to understand this definition by taking some examples. So example here is, let us take H2O molecule. In H2O molecule, oxygen is bonded to the two hydrogen atoms. Atomic mass of hydrogen is 1.008 grams. That means 1 equal part mass. This is 1 equal part mass. And whereas atomic mass of the oxygen is equals to 16 grams. 16 grams equally has to be divided among these two bonds. That is 8 grams and 8 grams. So the question is, this 16 grams is divided into how many equal parts? 2 equal parts. So number of gram equivalents of oxygen involved in this process is equals to 2. See, hydrogen, 1 equal part participated. If you consider 2 hydrogens, 2 equal parts. That means 2 equal parts of oxygen combines with 2 equal parts of the hydrogen. If you take only 1 equal part of the oxygen, that shall combine with the 1 equal part of the hydrogen. That means number of equal parts of one atom that combines always equals to the number of equal parts of the another atom. So this number of equal parts are called as the number of gram equivalents. So here number of gram equivalents of oxygen. So how did we get this oxygen? Means here 16 grams is divided into 2 parts. So 16 divided by 8, you will get the 2. Here 16 is the atomic mass, whereas 8 is the equivalent mass. So number of gram equivalents formula is equals to atomic mass divided by equivalent mass. In case of the molecules, we have to take the molecular mass divided by their equivalent mass. So here in the case of the molecules, it could become the molecular weight divided by their equivalent weight. Okay. So here we can write down that number of gram equivalents of one atom combined or participate in the reaction is equals to number of gram equivalents of other atom that participate in the same reaction. So you must remember that this relation is very important in solving the questions. Every time we take the number of gram equivalents of one molecule or atom is equals to number of gram equivalents of the another atom or molecule. Then let us try to see how to get the number of gram equivalents and how many formulas exist in solving the number of gram equivalents. So here the formulas that helps us in solving the questions are, first one formula is number of gram equivalents is equals to atomic weight or atomic mass divided by equivalent weight. You can take it as a molecular weight divided by equivalent weight. Similarly, the other formula, number of gram equivalents is equals to normality into volume of the solution in liters. So if you multiply both of this, again we get the number of gram equivalents. Next formula, number of gram equivalents is equals to valency. You must remember that number of gram equivalents is also known as the valency, or it is also simply known as the n factor. And we shall see how to use these formulas in solving some questions. Number of gram equivalents is equals to number of moles into n factor. Number of gram equivalents. Sometimes they give the percentage of the purity. So this is when percentage of purity is given. So number of moles into X percentage of purity divided by 100 into n factor. Similarly, number of gram equivalents is also known as the number of Faradays. So number of Faradays formula. Number of Faradays means I into T divided by 96,500, or else you can take the Q by 96,500. Whereas number of equivalents means you know that weight by equivalent weight. So weight by equivalent weight. If you send this equivalent weight that side, so weight is equals to equivalent weight into I into T by 96,500, which is the formula of the Faraday's first law. And here equivalent mass means you know the atomic mass by valency. So that atomic mass divided by valency into I into T divided by 96,500 coulombs. So we can solve the question even when the Faradays are given. So these are the formulas that helps us in solving the questions regarding the number of gram equivalents. Now let us try to see how these formulas are very helpful. See here, number of moles are given. In the place of number of moles, you can write down molarity into volume also into n factor. Because number of moles equals to molarity divided by volume. So molarity into volume, so that number of moles equals to molarity into volume. Molarity equals to number of moles per volume. Now let us solve the questions using this. And before that, we shall see which methods are helpful in determining the equivalent mass. Afterwards, if we come to this one, all together we can include in the solving the questions. There is one more formula regarding the number of gram equivalents. Number of gram equivalents. What happens if gas is given? So for gas, number of gram equivalents equals to volume of the gas at STP divided by the equivalent volume at STP. So this formula is also helpful in solving the questions. Now let us see which methods are helpful in determining the equivalent mass. Methods to determine equivalent mass. There are few methods which helps us in determining the equivalent mass. So one by one I'll write down and we shall discuss them. So first one is hydrogen displacement method. So this is for metals which can displace the hydrogen gas, because all the metals cannot displace the hydrogen gas after reaction with the acids. So only few metals which can displace the hydrogen gas, for them it is applicable. So imagine Y grams of hydrogen was displaced by X grams of metal. Then if they ask us to calculate the equivalent mass of the metal, then you have to see 1.008 grams of hydrogen displaced by how many grams of the metal? You must remember that this is the one equivalent mass of the hydrogen. So this was displaced by some mass of the metal, means that could be the equivalent mass of that particular metal. Why? Because one equivalent part always combines with the only one equivalent part. So that equivalent part of the metal is equals to, do the cross multiplication. So 1.008 into x grams of the metal divided by y grams of hydrogen H2 displaced. So now the formula can written clearly as equivalent mass of the metal is equals to mass of the metal divided by mass of hydrogen displaced into 1.008. Let us try to see some questions and how to solve the questions using this formula. So the question is 28 grams of metal requires 24.5 grams of sulfuric acid to get dissolved. Calculate the equivalent weight of the metal and volume of hydrogen liberated at STP. So this is the question they asked. So in this question it very clearly says that 28 grams of the metal completely needs the 24.5 grams of sulfuric acid, means complete reaction had been happened. So now let us see here. When complete reactions happens, automatically we have to land into the one particular formula, that is number of gram equivalents is always equals to number of gram equivalents of the other compound. So here metal is present. Similarly H2SO4 sulfuric acid is present. So here number of gram equivalents of metal is equals to number of gram equivalents of the sulfuric acid. Then how to calculate the number of gram equivalents of the metal? Weight by equivalent weight of the metal. So I shall take the equivalent weight of the metal as E suffix capital M is equals to, here also weight of sulfuric acid divided by its equivalent mass. Weight of metal given as 28 grams. Equivalent weight of the metal we don't know, that has to be calculated. Weight of sulfuric acid was given as 24.5 grams. Equivalent mass of the sulfuric acid H2SO4, it is equals to 49. So how to calculate the equivalent mass of the acid, that we discussed in the previous class, that is equivalent mass. Please do watch that video for the clear information regarding the calculation of the equivalent mass of the various compounds in various situations. Then equivalent mass of the metal is equal to the cross multiplication, so that here 28 into 49 divided by 24.5, this value is equals to 56, which is the equivalent mass of the metal. Now along with that they are asking the volume of hydrogen liberated at STP. Here also we can use the same thing, that number of gram equivalents of metal is equals to number of gram equivalents of hydrogen gas liberated. So number of gram equivalents of the metal, weight by equivalent weight. Weight already we know that 28. Equivalent weight just now calculated 56. So number of gram equivalents of the hydrogen, from this formula we can use that. volume of the gas released at STP divided by equivalent volume. So that volume of H2 that is we are expecting to liberate at STP divided by equivalent volume of the hydrogen, just now we calculated in the beginning of the class, that was 11.2 liters. So volume of H2 liberated at STP is equals to, do the cross multiplication, 28 into 11.2 divided by 56, it goes 2 times, that value equals to 5.6 liters. So like this we can use this hydrogen displacement method in calculation of the both equivalent mass as well as the equivalent volumes. Now let us see the another method. So second method is chloride formation method. Chloride formation method. So in this method, some element, it could be metal or non-metal, on reaction with chlorine, it produces its chloride, that elemental chloride or metallic chloride. So in such cases, then how to calculate the equivalent mass of the element or metal is equals to, let us consider it as a metal, equivalent mass of the metal equals to mass of the metal, in case of element considered as a mass of the element, divided by mass of chlorine combined into 35.5 grams, then you will get the equivalent mass. That means with 35.5 grams of the chlorine, whatever the mass of the element reacts, that could be the equivalent mass of that particular element. Now let us see some of the questions in using this formula. So question number 1, the hydrogen phosphate of certain metal has formula MHPO4. The formula of the metal chloride would be, so in this case not necessary to use this formula, directly we can solve this question. So let us see how to solve this. Basically they said MHPO4, it dissociates into M2 plus plus HPO4 2 minus. Why? Because in H3PO4 it is releasing to H plus plus HPO4 2 minus, that we already calculated in the n-factor calculations. So here the valency of the metal is equals to 2. So each chlorine valency, chloride valency equals to -1. That's why to neutralize 2 positive charges, 2 negative charges are required. That's why the formula of its metal chloride could be MCl2. Let us see the second question. If the equivalent metal of a trivalent metal is 32.7, the molecular weight of its chloride is how much? That they are asking. So let us try to solve this. Basically, equivalent mass of the trivalent metal is given. Equivalent mass of the metal is equals to 32.7. They said trivalent. So the valency is also given. Valency is equals to 3. They are asking to calculate the molecular weight of that particular trivalent. So here very simple that we know that equivalent weight is equals to atomic weight divided by valency. Let us calculate the atomic mass from this formula. Atomic weight is equals to equivalent weight into valency. Equivalent mass already given 32.7 into valence is also given 3. So 32.7 into 3, 98.1. Now they said the valence is 3 and it is forming a chloride. That means if you consider the metal is M and its valence is 3, means 3 positive charges are there. Obviously it needs the 3 negative charges to neutralize it. That's why its formula could be now MCl3. Then molecular weight of this compound equals to M atomic mass already we have calculated, that is 98.1 plus 3 chlorines 3 into 35.5. So here the value is 35.5 into 3 plus 98.1, 204.6. 204.6 grams per mole is the molecular mass of that particular metal chloride. Let us have some more questions. Question number 3. The equivalent weight of a metal is 4.5 and molecular mass of its chloride is 80. The atomic weight of the metal is so this is the question, we need to solve that. So first of all, given information is equivalent weight of the metal is given as 4.5. Molecular weight is given as 8.0. They are asking us to calculate the equivalent mass of the metal. So here, first of all, equivalent mass of the metal chloride is equals to equivalent mass of the metal plus equivalent mass of the Cl minus M. Equivalent mass of the metal already given 4.5. Equivalent mass of the Cl minus N is 35.5. So total equivalent mass is equals to 40. Equivalent mass of the metal chloride. So we know that equivalent mass is equals to equivalent mass of the metal chloride is equals to molecular weight divided by valency. Then find out the valency. Valency equals to molecular weight divided by equivalent weight. Molecular weight is given as 80. Equivalent weight is given as the 40. So the valency is equals to 2. So here another formula, that is equivalent weight is equals to atomic weight divided by valency. They ask us to calculate the atomic weight. So atomic weight of metal is equals to equivalent weight into valency or n factor. Equivalent mass is 4.5, whereas valency is equals to 2, then that value equals to 9 grams per mole. The question you get doubt here is how the valency of the molecule is equals to the valency of the atom. Very simple, that I very clearly said in the starting of the class, that is number of gram equivalents is equals to number of gram equivalents. Number of gram equivalents also known as the valency. So if you get the number of gram equivalents or valency of the one particular compound, obviously you get the number of gram equivalents of the another substance. That's why here valence we can take directly over there. Next, question number 4. 74.5 grams of metallic chloride contains 35.5 grams of chlorine. The equivalent mass of the metal is. So here total mass is 74.5 grams. In that how much is present? 35.5 grams of chlorine is present. So mass of chlorine is equals to 35.5 grams. Total molecular weight is equals to 74.5 grams, and mass of metal is equals to 39 grams. And remember here is, that means 35.5 grams of the chlorine reacts with the 39 grams of the metal. And you have to remember one more thing, that 35.5 grams is the equivalent mass of the chlorine. So one equivalent mass combines with one equivalent mass. That means equivalent mass of the metal is also equals to 39 grams. So here we can write down that equivalent mass of metal is equals to 39. Next question. The equivalent mass of an element is four. Its chloride has vapor density 59.25. The valency of the element is. So the solution here. Vapor density of the compound is given. Let us calculate the molecular mass first. So molecular weight of the chloride is equals to 2 into vapor density. 2 into vapor density 59.25. So this is equals to 118.5. And equivalent mass of the element is given. Equivalent mass of the element, I am taking it as a metal, but they did not say anything about the metal, so that let us take the equivalent mass. That value is equals to 4. Equivalent mass of compound equals to equivalent mass of the element plus equivalent mass of the Cl minus, because they said chloride. Equivalent mass of the element is 4 plus equivalent mass of the chloride is 35.5, that is equals to 39.5. Then here we'll get the equivalent mass is equals to molecular mass divided by valency. Then valency is equals to molecular mass divided by equivalent mass. Molecular weight is given as 118.5 divided by, and equivalent mass is given as 39.5. The value of the valency is equals to 3. So let us solve one more question. 158.5 grams of chloride occupies a volume of 22.4 liters at STP. The percentage of chlorine in this chloride is 44.71%. The atomic weight and valency of the element is So let us solve this question. They said 158.5 grams of chloride occupies 22.4 liters at STP. It is very clear that the compound is a gas. It is occupying 22.4 liters at STP, means this could be the molecular mass of that compound. So the why? Because 1 mole of any compound occupies 22.4 liters at STP. So molecular weight of chloride is equals to 158.5 grams. See, percentage of the chlorine is given. So we have already made a particular lecture about the calculation of the percentage of the elements in previous classes. Please do that for the formula. And you know, I'll use directly the formula here. Percentage of chlorine is equals to mass of chlorine divided by molecular weight into 100. So I would like to know how much mass of the chlorine is present here. So mass of chlorine is equals to percentage of the chlorine is given as 44.71 into molecular weight is given as 158.5 divided by 100. So let us solve this. 44.71 into 158.5 equals to divided by 100. 70.86. 70.86 means approximately 71. So let's calculate number of gram equivalents. Number of gram equivalents of chlorine. So how to calculate? Weight by equivalent weight, 35.5. So how many equal parts are there? 2 equal parts are there. That means obviously the other element also will have the 2 equal parts. Now let us see here, out of 158.5 grams, 71 grams, this is present. Chlorine is present. What is the mass of this one? 158.5 minus 71. So 87.5 grams. 87.5 grams is the mass of the element. Approximately is equals to 88 grams. So anyhow, directly we got the mass of the element, and they did not ask about the, so only atomic mass is asked. So atomic mass is equals to 88 grams of the element. So let us see the next type of the another method how to calculate the equivalent mass. So here valency of the element also has to be calculated. We know that number of gram equivalents is equals to valency. That's why valency value is also equals to 2. So next, third method is oxide formation method. So in this method, equivalent mass of the metal is equals to mass of metal divided by mass of oxygen combined into 8 grams. Means with 8 grams, whatever the mass of the metal combines, that could be the equivalent mass of that particular metal. So how to develop this formula we discussed in the hydrogen displacement method. Same concept in the chloride method and the oxide formation method also. So let us solve some question regarding this oxide formation method. First one, 8.34 grams of a divalent metal is oxidized. Oxidized by 0.680 liters of oxygen at STP. Calculate the equivalent mass of the metal. So let us solve here. Very simple. Without using this one, we can solve this because starting we have done the number of gram equivalents. So number of gram equivalents of metal is equals to number of gram equivalents of oxygen. So number of gram equivalents means weight by equivalent weight of the metal is equals to number of gram equivalents of the oxygen. Here volume is given. Volume formulas we have discussed. That is volume of the gas at STP, that is 0.680 liters at STP divided by equivalent volume of the oxygen, that is 5.6 liters. Weight of the divalent metal is given as 8.34. So 8.34 by equivalent mass of the metal into equals to 0.68 divided by 5.6. So that equivalent mass of the metal is equals to, do the cross multiplication, 8.34 into 5.6 divided by 0.68. 8.34 into 5.6 equals to divided by 0.68. The answer is 68.68. 68.68 is the equivalent mass of this divalent metal. Next question. An oxide of arsenic contains 65.2% of metal. Calculate the equivalent mass of the arsenic. Calculate equivalent mass of the arsenic. That is what they asked. So let us see here. Whenever percentage is given, then you need to consider the total mass is equals to 100 grams. That means mass of arsenic is equals to 65.2 grams, whereas mass of oxygen is equals to 100 minus 65.2. So this value 34.8 grams of oxygen is there. Then they are asking the equivalent mass. Number of gram equivalents of arsenic equals number of gram equivalents of the oxygen. So weight of arsenic 65.2 divided by equivalent mass of arsenic is equals to mass of oxygen 34.8 divided by equivalent mass of the oxygen is equals to 8. Do the cross multiplication so that you will get the equivalent mass of the arsenic equals to 65.2 into 8 divided by 34.8. 65.2 into 8 equals to divided by 34.8. 14.98, so that approximately you can consider it as a 15. And the next question, a metallic oxide contains 60% of metal. Then find the equivalent mass of metal. Similar concept, you solve this question and put your answer in the comment box, because the concept already been discussed. So you also test yourself how much you understand this concept. So the next concept is the fourth concept, conversion method. So in this conversion method, one compound is converted into the another compound. So here we can write down that compound 1 converted into the compound 2. In such cases, how to calculate the equivalent mass. So if this compound 1 is having, imagine one cation and one anion is present. So cation I am taking it as C, anion I am taking it as A. So Ca1 is converting into the cation and anion in the second compound. See, cation and anion C and A may or may not be equal. They are not equal because this is the first compound is different and second compound is different. Then in such cases, mass of compound 1, that is Ca1, divided by equivalent mass of the C1 plus equivalent mass of the A1 equals to, then mass you take here, mass of Ca2 divided by equivalent mass of the C2 plus equivalent mass of the A2, means mass by their equivalent masses. That is what number of gram equivalents. Now for example, in a particular question, salt is converted into the precipitate, some another precipitate. Then in such cases we have to write down that mass of salt divided by equivalent mass of salt. If you know the salt of the equivalent mass directly, you write down, or else equivalent mass of the cation plus equivalent mass of the anion is equals to mass of precipitate divided by equivalent mass of precipitate. There is a similar method like this that is called a double decomposition method. Double decomposition method. So in this double decomposition method, imagine AB reacts with CD, produce AC plus BD. Means two compounds reacted with each other having different radicals and produce two products or more than two products. Here again different combination of radicals are there. Then if they ask the equivalent mass of A, then you have to take the reactant which is having the A as well as the product which is having the A. So here A is present. Then simple thing here is mass of AB divided by equivalent mass of the A plus equivalent mass of the B. That equals to mass of AC divided by equivalent mass of the A plus equivalent mass of the C. If they ask about the, for example, D, then you have to select this CD and BD, so that here it is equals to mass of CD divided by equivalent mass of the C plus equivalent mass of the D, that equals to mass of BD divided by equivalent mass of the B plus equivalent mass of the D, because your intention is to calculate the equivalent mass of the D. Let us see one question based on this. So there is a question, 3 grams of an oxide of a metal is converted to chloride completely and it yielded 5 grams of chloride. The equivalent mass of metal is. So this looks like conversion of the compound A into the compound B, or else double decomposition. Double decomposition means here you need the two compounds. Anyhow, let us see here. One metal oxide, some X, convert into the metal chloride. We don't know what is their valencies, so always we have to remember our basic thing, that is number of gram equivalents equals to number of gram equivalents of the another compound. So here mass of metal oxide divided by equivalent mass of the metal plus equivalent mass of the oxide ion is equals to mass of metal chloride divided by equivalent mass of the metal plus equivalent mass of the Cl minus ion. So here mass of the metal oxide is given as 3 grams divided by equivalent mass of the metal to be calculated, whereas equivalent mass of the oxygen we know that it is 8. Mass of the metal chloride is given as 5 and equivalent mass of the metal again to be calculated, plus chlorine equivalent mass is 35.5 grams. Do the cross multiplication, so that 5 or else 3 EM plus 3 into 35.5, 106.5. This value equals to 5 equivalent mass of the metal plus this value equals to 40. You send the similar parts on the same side. So 3 equivalent mass you send that side, 40 you bring that side. So 5 equivalent mass minus 3 equivalent mass, it will be 2 equivalent mass. 2 equivalent mass is equals to 106.5 minus 40. So 2 equivalent mass is equals to, this is 66.5. Equivalent mass is equals to 66.5 by 2 equals to 33.25 is the equivalent mass of the metal. Let's move on to the another method. So the next method is neutralization method. So in case of neutralization method, we have to take the number of gram equivalents equals to normality into volume. So here number of gram equivalents of one compound, that may be acid or base, equals to number of gram equivalents of another compound. In this case, this could be again acid or base. If you take acid here, it could be the base. If you take base here, it could be the acid. So N1 V1 is the number of equivalents. This compound equals to N2 V2. So let us try to solve one question using this formula also. So the question here is 100 ml of 0.1 N NaOH solution is required for neutralization of 0.49 grams of a dibasic acid. What is the molecular mass of the acid? So here again, let us see number of gram equivalents of one compound equals number of gram equivalents of the another compound. So number of gram equivalents of NaOH is equals to number of gram equivalents of the dibasic acid. Number of gram equivalents, normality into volume in the liters, this could be in the liters, but a value given in the milliliters. So milliliters divided by 1000 gives the liters. So 0.1 into 100 divided by 1000, this value equals to, here weight by equivalent weight, 0.49 divided by equivalent mass of the acid, that we don't know, that has to be calculated. So now it cancel out, 10 becomes 10 power minus 1, so this entire value becomes the 10 power minus 2, 0.49 and equivalent mass of the acid, so that equivalent mass of the acid is equals to 49. Then they asked the molecular mass and they said the dibasic acid, so its N factor value is equals to 2. So equivalent mass of the acid is equals to molecular mass of the acid divided by N factor, that is basicity of the acid. Then molecular mass of the acid is equals to equivalent mass into N factor. Equivalent mass is 49, N factor equals to 2, so it is equals to 98. So like this we can calculate the equivalent masses using the neutralization method also. So now let's move on to the another concept. Electrolytic method. So electrolytic method, already formula was given, that is number of gram equivalents is equals to number of Faradays, I into T divided by 96,500. Number of gram equivalents means again weight by equivalent weight equals to I into T divided by 96,500. So that weight or equivalent weight, whichever you want to calculate, you can calculate equivalent weight into I into T by 96,500. Let us take a question here. The mass of a metal deposited by passing 965 amperes of current for 100 seconds through a solution is 31.25 grams. What is its equivalent mass? Then we have to substitute this information in the question. So here weight is given. How much is given? 31.25 grams of metal. We have to calculate equivalent mass into current in amperes is given 965 amperes into time in seconds also mentioned, that is 100 seconds, divided by 96,500, so that it completely cancel out. So equivalent mass of the metal is equals to 31.25 grams. So like this we can use the electrolytic method, and most of the questions regarding this electrolytic method could be covered in the electrochemistry lesson. So we need to wait for that lesson, because there Faraday's laws first law and second law when we are discussing, we can go through the entire concept of that this equivalent mass as well as the Faraday's laws. So that here only one example is given, rest of the examples shall be discussed in the electrochemistry. Next one, metal displacement method. Metal displacement method. So usually higher active metals displaces the lower active metals from their compounds. So let us take a metal M1 reacts with another compound M2X, and this metal is replacing this M2, so that M2 is deposited and M1 reacting with that radical and giving the compound. So in these cases, how to solve the questions? That means here mass of metal 1 divided by its equivalent mass is equals to mass of metal 2 divided by its equivalent mass. Let us take 1 and 2. So we shall solve one question here. So question is 6.78 grams of copper is displaced from copper sulfate solution, CuSO4 solution, by 7 grams of zinc. Find the equivalent mass of copper if equivalent weight of zinc is given as 32.5. So very simple solution. So basically zinc reacts with the copper sulfate. It is replacing the copper from the copper sulfate and occupying its position to form the zinc sulfate, and the copper is deposited. So here mass of zinc divided by equivalent mass of the zinc equals to mass of copper divided by equivalent mass of the copper. So now here mass of the zinc given as 7 grams, equivalent mass is given as 32.5 grams. Mass of the copper was given as 6.78 grams. Equivalent mass of the copper to be calculated. Equivalent mass of the copper equals to, do the cross multiplication, 6.78 into 32.5 divided by 7. Let us see the value. 6.78 into 32.5 equals to, divided by 7. So 31.47. 31.47 grams is the equivalent mass of the copper. So let us see the last method, that is silver displacement method or silver salt method. Silver salt method. So usually this method is helpful in calculation of the either equivalent mass of the metals only when organic compounds or organic acids are involved. So organic compounds, when react with the organic carboxylic acids, when react with the silver, they form the silver carboxylate compounds. There it is very helpful. So that here equivalent mass of the element or metal is equals to mass of silver salt divided by mass of silver into 108 minus 107. So let's solve one question using this formula also. Question is 0.607 grams of silver salt of a tribasic acid on combustion deposited 0.37 grams of pure silver. Calculate the molecular weight of acid. So we shall try to solve this question. From this formula equivalent, sorry, this is not the metal, this is the equivalent mass of the acid. So let us calculate the equivalent mass of the acid. Equivalent mass of the acid is equals to mass of the silver salt. It was given as 0.607 divided by mass of the silver formed, that is 0.37 into 108, which is the atomic mass of the silver, minus 107. Why? Because one silver reacts with the one silver can replace only one H plus ion. So silver mass is 108 minus 1 equals to 107. Then let us solve this one. 0.607 into 108 divided by 0.37 equals to this value and minus 107. So this value, equivalent mass of the acid, is equals to 70.17. But what are they asking? They are asking the molecular weight of the acid. So molecular weight of the acid is equals to equivalent mass of the acid into n factor. N factor means basicity of the acid. Here they said tribasic acid. So that equivalent mass is 70.17 into 3. So this value is equals to 70.17 into 3 is equals to 210.51 grams per mole is the molecular mass of the tribasic acid. Dear students, I hope you understand this lecture. I have covered almost all the concepts regarding the calculation of the equivalent volume, number of gram equivalents, and how to use these in the various methods. So this video will be very helpful to you. And if you want to understand the equivalent mass completely, better watch the previous class also. And please try to share these videos to your friends, those who are in need of the this type of the calculations. I hope this video is helpful to you. Thank you one and all, and please don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you.